Welcome to the Geek EMT Podcast. Always a geek, always EMT.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Geek EMT Podcast. I am back again. It's been a little bit of a hiatus, short break, work, life, family, duty, honor, integrity, all that good stuff. So I'd like to start off with this quote. Why do we fall, sir? So that we can learn to pick ourselves. We have a great episode today. We have back Scott McConnell is back with us again. Scott, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Scott is a special operations No, he's a paramedic, registered nurse. Scott has been doing this for, when Washington crossed the river.
Well, since 1991.
So when Washington didn't cross the river. No, he was there when Spock and Kirk they didn't have Jim yet. There was Scott. Then he was replaced by Bones. Now, Scott, it's great, man. How you been?
Good.
Happy Father's Day.
Captain, we need more power.
All right, here's another key question. Where did we already talk about this? Did we say where you? Okay, so I think maybe I said what species or where would you be? Where would you be on the ship? Would you still stick with medical, or would you do like chief security or?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Because I'm telling you, there's something about throwing photon torpedoes at people that
Hell yeah,
that kind of piques an interest.
that's badass, man. That's badass.
Although I think trying to take some of these aliens down might be a little bit much. So science,
Okay.
security, medical. I definitely think I'd be wearing a gold tunic.
Yeah, I'd probably be chief. I'd probably be security, chief of security. Kind of cool. Your death rate goes up, so
Yeah, never wear a red shirt. Jeez.
never wear a red shirt. Maybe a gold tunic, because gold tunics started going towards security in Generations and then Voyager.
Mhm.
But because if you're a science officer, your death rate was about here, security here, red tunic, you're dead.
Mystery crewman that beams down. You're not beaming
You're
back.
not being back up.
Make sure you have your stuff in order.
Happy Father's Day. Today
Thank
we're recording on Happy Father's Day. I was going to tell you this. We'll put it on the record. I might get this out next week. This week, folks. This week, I might get this episode out. So there you go. Yeah. So let's start off with a geek question. Wait, is that the geek question? Screw it. That's the geek question of the week. So you be science officer. I'm chief of security. I'm good with that. Now, here's a good geek question of the week. Which commander would you want to be under? Would you want to be Picard? Would you want to be Voyager, Janeway? Where would you want?
I'll tell you, and this is probably going to get me a little bit of trouble, right? But old school James Tiberius Kirk, right? Old school.
Yes, sir.
Always got to go with the man.
Yes, sir.
Right?
By the book.
1960s, early 70s television,
Mm-hmm.
and Shatner is, getting together with it. Green ladies, right?
Green ladies, bro. Go green, never go back.
Right. But, don't leave out Benjamin Sisko from DS.
Man, I knew you were going to go there. That's like,
he kept that whole station together.
He did.
And it really could have just flew apart. Now, of course, Picard, right, got the British charm, which kind of segues into, the other topics we're talking about today, right? You got that British accent, that cool, calm cucumber sandwich, Earl Grey tea.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Picard was the man too.
Mm-hmm.
I think for their generations, that's the order. Kirk, Picard, Sisko.
You know who you're leaving out, right? Yeah, you're a little controversial here.
I think it depends on, the other thing is I think it kind of depends on who you grew up with.
Sure. Very, very doggone true. Very doggone true. Because I grew up with Picard and Sisko, but at 8 o'clock at night on Channel 7, with some Totino's pizza and a Mountain Dew, it was Star Trek Voyager. Because during that time, that was 96 to 2002. I was a sophomore in 2002. So I grew up with that, you know what I'm saying? So, and I grew up with Picard, but it stopped at 93, 94. And it was about, the only episodes I really remember was the Borg. Was the Best of Both Worlds, part 1 and 2. You didn't know who they were. You only knew that Q sent them like a prerequisite of what was going to happen. But when that episode came out, that was legit. Like that was legit. To Commander Riker, fire, and it just ends, and you're like, damn, goosebumps.
And then later on, when Picard becomes Locutus,
yep,
man, that was an awesome episode because now you're basically taking the man that is Picard, his knowledge, his tactics, his grace under fire, if you will, and now you're putting him up against number 2, Will Riker.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I actually met him.
You did? Did you meet Locutus?
No, Will Riker.
You did?
Yeah.
You see that? He's watching us.
That's awesome.
He's watching us.
I was, we were doing a simple transport back to a nursing facility.
Yeah.
Visiting somebody. I'm not really
sure. Crapping me?
We're standing by the elevator, and I kind of go like this, and he's standing right next to me, like, oh, big fan, shook his hand.
So let's get this straight. We're going to get this clip. So you're doing a transport. He's from Bethlehem. Yeah, he's from okay, you already knew that. Okay. So you get in the elevator, he's standing right there. Is he like, see?
Yeah, we just, hey, big fan, watched, big Star Trek fan, watched all the episodes, you're a great actor. He's like, oh, thank you, shook our hands. It's like, yeah, you want me to sign anything? I'm like, we're kind of on duty.
Can we take a pic? Oh, wait, what year was it?
Maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
No crap. Are you serious? God. Yeah, you take a picture. You want to take a picture? Man.
Left my phone in the truck.
I'm so sorry. He was here again in the Fan Philly Expo. We'll talk about cons and stuff. I don't know if you go to cons. I think you go to cons. You go to shows and cons, right? You go. He was here in Philly with Data, with Brett Spiner, and I literally copped out. We'll talk more about that, but I copped out, peeps. I copped out. I'm sorry, Scott. That's an awesome story. Meeting Jonathan Frakes. Yeah, I'm sure he's not. Like, he just looks nice. Just so looks nice.
He's chill.
And so like down to earth. I don't know if you watch the Rosenbaum podcasts and he's with him. He just tells you how it is. Like, I think Rosenbaum, if you guys don't know, is Lex Luthor from Smallville. And he has his own podcast called Inside of You, which is hilarious, the title, because it's like, whoa. But he has Jonathan Frakes. He had him on twice. And he goes, Rosenbaum, do you like this? You can see he's talking about podcasting. He's like, yeah. And he asked Jonathan about a question of a job. And Jonathan goes, for the money. I did it for the money. And he's so down to earth. And then when he said that, I was like, man, that's just straight up honesty, because do it for the money. You gotta get the money. We have Scott back on again. Scott is back on again. We had him on before. I've rebranded, guys. You know that. But just a mess within the last 6 months with that. But we rebranded. We got a new podcast. We're back up again. Same title, same way, just stronger. And we have Scott McConnell back on, and we're gonna dive into him. We're not gonna get inside of him. That's just sick. But we're gonna dive into him and talk about Scott. Where are you from? Talk about you first.
All right. So originally Northeast Philadelphia, here in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up there. 17, I left, went into the Navy, boot camp, B school, San Diego, California. Good experience. Was a cook in the Navy. Came back, was stationed at a ship in Norfolk, Virginia, the USS Austin, LPD-4. Since been turned into razor blades. It is decommissioned. And if you look on my Facebook page, you can find pictures of the decommissioning and how they just tore that ship a new one down in Texas. Spent 3 long years there and then got out of the Navy. Came home and through a couple of weird quirks of fate, got into EMS. Talking 1990, I got out of the Navy. In 91, I became an EMTM for mass pants. I could use mass pants here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
2 years later, Pennsylvania adopted the EMTB curriculum. So we all had to take a little class and take a little test, I think it was. And then we all became EMTBs for basic.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's some weirdness here in Pennsylvania where people's EMT numbers change when they changed levels of provider. I was really fortunate. My number never changed. So from EMTM to EMTB to paramedic, as a paramedic in 94, 95 here in Pennsylvania. I was one of the last classes to take the Pennsylvania paramedic exam because registry was, something special that you did. The people who had that disco patch on, they went above and beyond. I did wind up taking registry a couple of years later, kind of as a fluke, passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually became a nurse, and believe it or not, my number stayed the same, 070147 here in Pennsylvania.
070.
0.
Man, they just moved that 0 out here. You know what I'm saying?
I'm old. I'm
Well,
not 3 digits old.
I know, but it'd be cool to be 007 now, you know what I'm saying?
That
Oh,
would
no,
be
no.
cool to be
No,
007.
no. All right, yeah, we briefly talked really talked about your beginnings and such, and you grew up in Northeast Philly, and your Navy days were really cool as far as being a cook. And briefly, give me a couple stories. What did you love about the Navy? What did you love about military?
So I'll tell you, 17, not really having a purpose. And I'm definitely not going to be one of those guys that says, oh, everyone should join the military and blah, blah, blah. Listen, you need to either not totally know which way you're going, and you're just kind of free drifting. Maybe the military's the place for you. College at the time was definitely not the place for me. I much rather would have. I worked. Well, I was kind of like Ferris Bueller in high school. They'd be like, Scott McConnell. He does that guy because, my boss. I worked at a Dunkin' Donuts, and my boss was like, "Ah, you want overtime tomorrow?" Yeah, I do. So college really wasn't for me. Home life was, is what it was. So the Navy was an easy out. And going in at 17, maybe not the best of choices, but too late. I will say though that, boot camp is difficult because it's a culture shock, right? School, definitely a culture shock as well. The military, huge culture shock, right? Because now you're like responsible and people tell you what to do when, you're 17 and you're not really into that. But
Yeah.
I will say that, I have pictures, I have memories, I have souvenirs. I went inside the Great Pyramids of Giza. I climbed to the top of the Great Pyramid of Giza. I stood next to the Sphinx. I walked up the steps of the Eiffel Tower. I ate pizza in Naples, Italy, which, by the way, right, regardless
Really?
of
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Anthony
Yeah.
Bourdain and all those guys, I didn't like it, right? But anywho, so I can honestly say I've traveled greatly. I've seen the actual Mona Lisa and the Statue of David. We even met, we went to Rome. We had a special audience with the Pope. There were 1,500 sailors and Marines, and he gave a homily and a sermon. And they said, hey, you want to stand in line and shake his hand? Yeah, I do. So John Paul II, baby, shook my man's hand. So I'll
Wow.
always remember those things.
Wow. So yeah, so that you see the world. You can see
Absolutely.
the world.
Now, don't get me wrong. You could join the Navy and be sent to Alaska, and that's that.
Yeah, my brother was in the Navy, and I think I told you this. It got cut short. He was supposed to go to the Mediterranean, but they had this little war. You remember Bosnia? So that got cut really fast. So you could either go to Alaska or go to war, or you can literally go see the world. So it's kind of like a
Absolutely. Anyone who says, well, what do you think? I'm going to tell you, one, make sure that you get everything in writing.
Yep, I heard that.
Number
Yep.
two, start thinking about what you want to do and how that translates to the civilian sector.
Mhm.
Because as an example, and there's nothing wrong with joining the Army, right?
Mhm.
But driving a tank in the Army, that's great. If you're going to spend the next 20 years in the Army, how does that translate to something out here?
Exactly.
And I'm not making that connection between the Army and being a cook in
Right.
the Navy.
Yeah.
That translated literally, I was out maybe 4 days. I just drove back from Norfolk, Virginia. I walked in, they were opening up a Perkins family style restaurant right outside of Franklin Mills Mall. I walked in, they had open interviews, had a big sign, open interviews, we're opening in a week, hiring, everything. I walked in, the lady was like, oh, do you have any experience? I'm like, yeah, I literally just got out of the Navy as a cook. She's like, oh, you're hired.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it. Okay. So you've been in EMS, let's see, 94, 95, 91, no, 92. So about 30 years? About 32 years? Yeah.
Oh, so 91.
Mm.
So you're looking at 35 years.
35 years. Okay. So you've been doing it for a minute. Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely, we always talk about the burnout rate in EMS being about 7 years.
Yeah.
You're definitely the oddity.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Which we'll get into of the career that you've had and everything else. I literally know that I have burnt out 3 times in my career. 3 times. I know specifically or particularly when I burned out 3 times in my career. And if you've been doing it for 35 years, which you're still doing it right now, and you have a great school called This is CME, which I'm using myself, like, you will get burnout. You will get burnout. You will get hurt.
I'll tell you, James Boomhauer, great instructor, worked for us. He's now a flight medic up in Boston, getting his social worker degree, master's, doctorate. He did a great video. And if you go to distancecme.com/stress, free, check out what he has to say about that. And there's a lot of tips about recognizing when somebody that you're working with is getting to that point, and some things you can do to help that person out. Because we're an EMS, right? The whole point is to help people.
Yeah,
Why
that's
not
the whole point.
recognize when somebody is about to, teeter over the edge?
Yep. No, I agree with that. Like, I got in this business, in this field, to help people. People say you can make you make a difference. And, like, in my personal journey in this field, I don't feel like I make a difference. But what I do is I help people from the low to the high, from the middle to the sideways, from any which way. I help people. That got my why back from why I left 3 months in EMS. I left 3 months in EMS. So, okay. So 91 till now, you got some great knowledge. We're gonna have you back on because this an hour is not just long enough. But you became a nurse. You're still a paramedic, and you started school. Talk about the school. I want to distance CME. So where did that and that whole gamut of 30 years, and then you're like, man, I want to start school because I know. And if you guys have listened to the episode before I rebranded, we met at Grandview Hospital, and you were in that transition, right?
Yep. So we're talking 2010.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who took one of those contractor jobs. Maybe you remember the first Afghanistan, Iraq.
I do.
The Army, the United States government is hiring a lot of these contractors, General Dynamics, Blackwater, and all these other places. And one of the contracts is we need interpreters. Okay. But as part of that agreement, you need to be able to provide those interpreters medical services. So you have General Dynamics, Boeing, and all these other places. They're hiring paramedics, and holy moly. At the time, they're paying $125,000. And if you stay over there for a year, it's tax-free.
Wow.
Well, guys I know are quitting their jobs, selling all furniture, all their clothing, sell it all, and go in there for a year because, that was big money in 2010, right? And, if you remember, National Registry had that requirement that, 50% of your education had to be live. Okay, not a recording, not an article you read, like, GEMS, you read the article, you pay them $250, and then you take a little test and boom, there's an hour of Con Ed, right? No, has to be live. So friend of mine's over there, forward operating base, whatever, calls me up one day. He's like, hey man, registry's in like 3 months. I have no Con Ed. There's no classes here. I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot like, today we take for granted, Zoom, Teams, right? And all these other live classrooms that you go to. I'm like, So with 2 partners, started Distance CME, where we provided basically, you took a 48-hour at the time, right? A 48-hour refresher. I broke it into 2-hour blocks because realistically, if you're going to sit in front of a computer for 8 hours, you might as well just go to class, because that, and man, I really just can't sit in front of a computer for 8 hours. Like, holy moly, it's a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I broke it down into 2-hour blocks, and those blocks happen again and again, and they change days, change times, right? Because I know convenience has to be there. Convenience, quality, and accredited. Those are the 3 things. But the convenience factor has got to be there, because if it's not convenient, I'm not going to do it. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. Next thing you know, it's March 30th. You have no Con Ed, and you're calling me up, and this has actually happened. Hey, I know it's the 30th, but I need 60 hours as a paramedic. What can you do for me?
Jeez. Yeah, I can't do anything for you. Yeah.
Well, I actually had somebody say this to me. Well, can't you just give me, and I promised to. No.
Are you shocked? Are you like?
Well, I wasn't shocked at that. But when I said no and they hung up on me, and 2 minutes later, their mother called.
No, come on,
Did
man.
you know that, I'm not going to obviously say that. Did
Of
you
course.
know that blah, blah, blah was, my daughter was in the hospital? And I'm like, ma'am, did your daughter tell you she had 2 years to get this done? And that we could lose our accreditation for, doing some
Word.
stuff? So anywho, and now, once again, convenience is a factor. So I get it. People don't even want to sit in a live class for 2 hours. Cool. There are 5 states still that require live education. We've been generating our own recorded SCORM content. So, and we've broken it 50-50. So a little bit of live, a little bit of recorded whenever you feel like it. Boom. Getting it done. Easy, convenient, accredited. We're one of the very few Con Ed providers that are accepted in all 50 states, even the hard ones. Pennsylvania doesn't accept CAP-CE. We're a Pennsylvania Training Center. New Jersey, New York, super difficult state. We have our own CIC. So any of your listeners are from New York, our ALS CIC handles it all.
It's funny. I have a couple of my majority on TikTok. So I don't really, so when I say I don't care about numbers is what I mean. I don't care about getting thousands or 100,000s or 25,000. I care about quantity or quality than quantity. So a lot of my viewers or a lot of my TikTok people I talk to are North Carolina, South Carolina, maybe some Missouri and some New York. So if you guys listen, go check out This and See Me. How's your, like, I got a couple of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Missouri. You guys credited there as well and everything?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome. So you started that, and briefly, real quick, you sold it. Because I'm like, where'd it go, man? And then you got it back.
You recognize, so the company that bought it, On Course Learning, right?
Mhm.
Not prop names. I recognized we were pretty much at the zenith of where we could go,
Mhm.
right? Because it let's be honest, it takes money. It takes money. Advertising, webs, web services, IT, IT guys are 85 an hour. I mean, that, right? So
I do.
when Encore said, hey, listen, we'll buy it from you, bring you guys on to run it, give you positions, benefits, blah, blah. I'm like, so we're going to back it 100%, right? Absolutely. And I'll tell you, Encourse, top notch organization. Unfortunately, Encourse was bought by a much larger company called Relias. And Relias is a company that's owned by Bertelsmann. No one's ever heard of Bertelsmann. They're big in Germany. They're a big company in Europe and in Germany. You actually have heard of Bertelsmann through their other companies. Random House Publishing, Penguin Publishing. You remember, get 12 CDs for a penny. You got to buy one every month. Bertelsmann.
Yes. Wow. Okay.
By the way, they called right before we started this. They used to owe them money. Just saying. So, and I'm not going to fault Relias, but Relias really wanted the nursing side because, there's 8 million nurses in the United States and 1 million pre-hospital providers. So where does the money come from? Right?
Yeah, I get it.
So at some point they just said, listen, we're going to just turn it off. It's not worthwhile to us anymore. The amount that we're making is nothing. So yeah, we're just going to turn it off. By the way, you're fired. And I said, well, before you turn it off, how about I buy it back? And they're like, okay. So yeah, I bought it back because I still was doing EMS. I still have a passion for EMS.
Yeah.
Teaching is still there. So myself, my 2 partners ponied up the dough, if you will, and bought This and See Me back. So it's now owned by us since 2022.
Yeah, right on. That's right on. And we're thankful for that. People are like, it's money and it's a business. Yeah, but we're thankful for that because there's not a lot of people who are passionate about EMS. They're either trying to get out or they're first and foremost for that, man. I've literally tried to get out 3,000 times, but I love it. It's the best job in the world. If you have talked to me 5 minutes ago, I would not say that. Talk to me now, best job in the world. And we need educators like you. We need educators like you in the school to keep people like, yeah, this is cool. This is great. Like, they care. They really do care. And they really do want us to succeed. They want us to do things. So yeah, all power to you and thank you. Because it's not enough.
I mean, realistically, an assistant manager at Burger King, I could go do that job and make close to $100,000 a year.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I know. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's a good leeway. So let's talk about EMS. So my segments are always going to be like EMS talk. It's aggressive. Let's talk about, so in your years of 35 years and in that culture, in that work and everything else, we're going to talk about a subject that has been on everybody's minds, since 2010, maybe 2015, EMS pay. You're a big proponent on education and being there should be a degree. There are other people who don't agree to that. I think there's a agree to disagree. And I don't know if it will ever come. Maybe some states do that. I don't know if we do that here in PA. And would that do something for the pay? We'll dig into that. But right now, what would help with EMS pay to increase? What would fix that? And not even fix that. How would it easily be an incline instead of a decline?
I hate to say it's easy. Nothing is ever easy, right?
No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
But
Especially EMS.
there's still a lot of places in this country, and I'm not even gonna talk about volunteerism. That has its place in fire and EMS, absolutely. But what I will say is, it's when EMS is not a mandated service, and by that I mean an essential service. So you have places in the United States, the greatest country in the world, biggest economy, the whole 9 yards, right? Where you have to have police, you have to have fire, you don't have to have EMS, and you're relying upon, volunteer organizations. When, man, how much is a new ambulance today?
Is that a recorded program? I know the answer.
And that's empty. I mean, you're talking a new monitor is base monitor, 35.
Yes, sir.
I mean, a power striker stretcher with the maintenance.
The power loader, that 150.
Yep, the power load. You're talking $100,000 just for that. So how do you say this is not required for our citizens? Thank you for volunteering your time and knowing that insurance pays bupkis. I mean, when you have a service that does, let's just say, 1,000 calls a year, so you're talking 3 a day-ish, right? And you're getting anywhere from $400 to $1,000 miles, ALS, BLS, whatever, right? So you're talking $3,000 a day. Well, that's covering salaries and benefits. So what happens when the stretcher goes down? The ambulance breaks. We need to buy a new one. It's 10 years old. Now what? So, to answer your question, I think to increase pay, one, I really believe chief officers need to look at their staff and making quality of life better. Two, we need to get onto the government. Medicare, all the insurance companies follow Medicare, Medicaid. This needs to be paid as healthcare. As a side note, my personal opinion, I think we should move out of Department of Transportation under Department of Health, but that's a me thing. People, once again, agree to disagree, but we are mobile healthcare. We're not public safety. I'm not out there directing traffic. I'm not checking smoke alarms and fire hydrants, and I'm not the police. I am picking up an ER, driving it to you, and providing a ton of the services the ER can do at your house, and then bringing you to definitive care. Now, granted, I can't do everything, but I'll tell you, look at the difference in EMS. I mean, we're no longer doing, I need to call the doc before I start an IV at D5W at TKO, right? Johnny and Roy, yeah. One of my paramedic instructors, we used to call them NaCHO3 because everyone got bicarb, nachos, right? So, chemical formula for cardiac arrest, give them 2 amps of bicarb. Of course, now we realize, oh shit, we're alkalizing everyone and killing them, right? Yep. But beside the point, medicine changes. We are bringing medicine. I mean, my full-time job, I work on a stroke truck. So it's an EMT, a paramedic, myself, and a CAT scan tech, because in the ambulance, we have a CAT scan machine. Someone is having signs and symptoms of a stroke. We're CAT scanning their head. The neurologist comes up for a teleneurologist visit. They're looking at the CAT scan in real time. They're doing an exam in the ambulance.
Yeah.
And then we as a group are deciding, well, maybe we should go ahead and give him the TNK and bust that clot right now. And guess what? I have it.
Yeah. 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 Yep. No, I agree. And again, we've always said this, that this is like the back of that office, and I call it office. I've always said this, and it's the ambulance. The ambulance is my office. That's where the magic happens. And in that office, it is a miniature ER. It is a miniature ER for the paramedic. It's a miniature ER for me. What we have been trained to do, it's not. All right, let's unpack this a little bit. Maybe we have to go to the foundation a little bit. Public safety. You say we're not public safety. Okay, explain that.
Sure.
Explain what public safety is and this, again, this is for the peeps, right? We all know, but what's public safety and what is that?
When you think about a public safety or a public safety servant, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're thinking police, you're thinking fire.
Yes.
I'm thinking the guys that are going to check the smoke alarms.
Yep.
They are checking hydrants because we want to keep the public safe. That's the classic definition to protect and serve on almost every police car, right?
Yeah. Yep.
They are there to keep the public safe. Do we do outreach? Sure, we do outreach, bike helmets, car safety checks, seat, the infant seat. Yeah, absolutely. We do that because we want to be part of the community. And trust me, I would much rather make sure your child's, safety seat is in properly and prevent me having to do work later on. Right. But that's not really why we're here. We're mobile medicine. We're not really public safety, keeping the public safe. I'm always for, work smarter, not harder, right? That's a mantra.
Yeah.
So if I can prevent somebody from having an accident, getting sick, absolutely. But that's not my primary goal. My primary goal is when you call because you need EMS, and then to treat you, stabilize you if I can, or at least give your compensatory mechanisms as much as I possibly can to get you to definitive care. Because of course I can't do surgery, right? But yeah, I mean the first.
Wow. That's a bad day. That's a bad day.
I think I saw on television one day, the guy fell off a ladder and they're like,
my God, no.
Drill. He's having a subdural hematoma.
No. No. Okay. Yeah. And in that terminology, because everything you just unpacked, that would change everything. Because the townships look at us as public safety. The government looks at us as public safety. The people look at as public safety. That is such a culture change. That would just implode.
And it takes time, trust me, being a medic for a long time and then becoming a nurse, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The whole paramedic nurse milieu, they don't like us. We don't like them. We do like them. We don't like them. Whatever, right? But when you look at the trajectory, just Google, the timeline of nursing. We're in that timeline, whether your audience wants to admit it or not, right? We are in that timeline.
It's true.
Look at like the 20s and 50s, man. Nurses were doctor helpers. They changed sheets, they wiped foreheads, they wiped backsides, right? So that was nursing back then. Well, wait a minute. They got an education. They got a language. They had diagnosis codes. Now look at nursing today. They're part of the healthcare team.
Yeah, late 70s. And late 70s, look what was on the rise at that point. Because I still think emergency is still the foundation of what we want to do and what we have and still do. And that was on the rise as well as the paramedic program in the fire departments and such and such. And yeah, so.
And, I'll tell you, you bring up a good point with emergency. I grew up on that show. That was one of the reasons I wanted to become a paramedic, right? But actually watch the episodes. And yes, when, the building blows up and they run in there, blah, 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 right? Yeah. All that stuff is good. But the backstories about them arguing with the docs at the hospital because the docs didn't want paramedics in the streets. Now, Dr. Brackett gave Johnny and Roy a hard time because he didn't feel that paramedics were worthwhile in the street. So, there's always a couple little stories,
Yep.
the thing blows up, the car
Yep.
accident, they save the kid, the old man with the smoke inhalation, blah, 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 right?
Yep. Yep. I do.
But some of those stories shows you the conflict that happened, and when you look at our beginnings, Freedom House in New York, the paramedics in LA, I mean, there was a lot of, we don't need them. People just come to the hospital and doctors will take care of them. That's not the case anymore.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Because that whole point of, because I think certain parts of the country, and this is culture again, and I could be wrong, but yeah, the paramedics in LA and the paramedics in New York, bigger cities, bigger things. But if you look at the smaller communities that we have now, back in the 70s, maybe 80s, and then somewhat 60s, the doctor with the little briefcase would come. That was now the paramedic. And no offense
Because
to
the
nurses,
doctor doesn't come anymore.
the doctors not come anymore. The paramedics do, which
Yeah.
are arguably is a doctor in a truck because of what a paramedic can do or what an
Yeah,
EMT can do. So yeah.
and look how EMS is expanding. So you have mobile integrated health. We used to talk about visiting nurses. Well, why don't I send a paramedic to the CHF patient
Mm-hmm.
who got discharged?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that they're not gaining weight.
Mm-hmm.
If they are, well, let's double their Lasix for a day or two. And instead of taking them to the hospital, see if they get better. Do an EKG in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Getting these people connected to the social services that they need.
Yes. Yes.
The big push now is pre-hospital blood. That there's grant money out the wazoo for that.
Mm-hmm.
MSC, Volunteer Medical Services Corps,
Yep.
has
They've started. Yep.
Upper Marion just started that.
Yep.
And guess what? Yeah. Whether it's a trauma, everyone says trauma, right? Absolutely trauma. But how about your, gross lower GI bleed patient that's, pooped out 2 quarts of blood?
Yep. Yep.
Why aren't we reperfusing them?
Yep. Yep. And it goes into that fact of changing culture, changing the way we teach things. Because one thing I do learn, and everything you're saying, it goes back to what his name's Brian Collins. He's the Let's Talk EMS again. He's on TikTok. Love him. Educator just like you. Down South Carolina. Most of his years in New York. SME. Everything you just said, from going with 12 lead in the house, picking up Gam, making sure could we do a blood transfusion in the truck? He's got CHF. Can you just check him out? All that stuff is service. Sometimes medicine. Service. We give medicine. And sometimes emergencies. And that's where we're at right now. You can look at my call volume in the last 36, maybe 48 hours. Fall, checkup, fall. And one was a syncope. Service, emergency. And maybe some medicine.
The falls, did you take to the hospital?
No, I did not. No,
so you just helped them get up?
Helped them get up. Check their
Service to
pulse.
the community.
Service
But
to the community.
you did an eval.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody you felt needed to go to the hospital,
Yes.
you would obviously try to get them to go for the checkup.
Yes.
Right?
Which we did. Which is it's just funny because which we did. But that whole thing, and that's going to be an EMS fact, can't kidnap, can't force. You know what I'm saying?
We live in a free country.
Yep.
It's if you're able to make decisions, aware of the consequences, awake, alert, and oriented ×4, and all the rest of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this country, you can refuse unless you're under arrest or in jail. Yeah, you gotta go.
You're gonna go.
But so to kind of connect it back to your original question about pay.
Yes.
So we're doing all this stuff. We're expanding our scope. A lot like nursing, 1950, 1960, expanding their scope. They had a degree requirement. People will argue and say there still are diploma programs out there. Absolutely. And with the nursing shortage, those nurses are getting hired too. They're getting hired, and they're usually signing stuff that says they need to get the degree after a certain amount of time. Okay. So why not, why don't we just circumvent this? Go, make it an associate's degree now. I've heard the arguments. Well, English 101 is not going to make me a better paramedic. Correct. It's not. It's going to make you more well-rounded person. That is going to make the difference. And making EMS, EMT a semester, or there's the 2-week boot camp programs, whatever. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And those should turn into college credits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I don't disagree with it, and I don't agree. I just want to see what it would look like.
Mm-hmm.
Because
That's the hardest part. What is it going to look like?
exactly.
And once again, just look at nursing. They already did all this. They traveled this road. They opened these doors already. They fought the fight already. Unfortunately, sometimes we can't get out of our own way, when, well, I want to get paid more before I have to go get a degree. Well, yeah, I'd like that too. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works.
Right.
You got to get the degree first and then you make more money.
Yeah, that's 2 + 2 is 4. I mean, before
Right?
I become a paramedic, I just can't get paid more now. I got to get my paramedic, and then I get paid more.
But if we take on face value that we are medicine, right? We're healthcare. Tell me what other healthcare provider doesn't have a degree?
A CNA.
So you're comparing paramedics to CNAs? You're going to get lynched, dude.
So we're looking at a paramedic, same statute and everything doesn't have a degree, but same.
Even an EMT?
Even EMT. I don't know.
I can't really think of one. I mean, respiratory therapy, they have degrees.
They have degrees.
There are some diploma programs out there, but once again, once you get hired somewhere, they want you to get that degree.
Get the degree. Yep.
Radiology, X-ray, CAT scan, MRI,
Degree.
yeah, they all have degrees. Obviously, nurses, physicians, PAs, nurse practitioners, CRNAs, who in healthcare. And, you could actually argue CNAs are more service than healthcare. I'm not going to go down that road, though, because that's a good way to get shot, right?
Yeah.
But
I get it. And somebody told me recently that a paramedic, even seasoned or not, just got out of school, is comparable to a third-year resident. Just because of the knowledge, the skill, and everything else.
Everyone's different. I would definitely compare it to a first-year resident.
First-year resident?
Okay. Their knowledge base is significant. They don't know how to put 2 and 2 together yet. They took organic chemistry, right? And so I know that, beta 2 agonist does this, that, and the other thing, but which beta 2 agonist should I give Mr. Johnson right here who's presenting in front of me? And that's where residency comes in. So if you're going to compare paramedicine to physicians, well, how long is our residency, our preceptor time? 600-700 hours in hospital and ride time? I'll tell you, most doctors do a minimum 2 years. And those are like psychiatry, dental, right? Those are the small residencies. ER, 3, sometimes 4 years. Surgery, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Neurosurgery, you're a resident for or a fellow for 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, all combined, all combined.
Right.
So then again, who do you want digging around in your brain? Somebody who's been practicing this exact thing that you're going to have for the last 10 years under intense supervision.
Yeah. Agree. I saw where you're going with that. Yep. So to end it with the pay and go back to the question, and I put it first, that's the deep. What's the superficial quick fix Band-Aid that you can see that
ambulance services have to make more money. We have to be an essential service, which means it has to be funded. And by funded, I mean, sorry if your taxes go up. Well, the area can't afford, a tax hike. Can you afford to not have police? Well, no. How about fire? Oh, well, they're a volunteer. Are they? Do they get tax dollars? Do you get millage? I won't name departments, but all the volunteers are in the stipend program. So they volunteer overnight. And they're getting paid. Not as much as the career staff, right? And it's, but it's not $20, and a gift card to Chili's, right?
And it's not even just that it's getting grown to states.
Correct.
So,
and I said in the beginning, Chris, there are places that need volunteer services.
Agreed.
I have a little mountain cabin in upstate Pennsylvania, and the area, I think there's one paid crew, and they cover a ginormous area, and then there's a couple of volunteer services. Absolutely. But when I'm up there, I know if I call 911, it's at least 45 minutes before an ambulance is coming to me.
But I hear that every day from either TikTok or PA or South Carolina, North Carolina. I get it. But that talk there's a level of I get it. We gotta have him. We gotta have volunteers. I get it. And okay. Where I'm talking about, where the population is just too big, the staff is short because we know we're short staffed. We're short staffed. So when we always say we gotta bring in this on. Well, what about the smaller areas? Okay, I'm talking about the bigger areas. I'm talking about the medics who are just getting hammered, and some of the townships that are just getting hammered.
Yep.
They're getting hammered. I get hammered.
Well, you have to realize that if you live in an area that, my closest neighbor, my little hunting place, is 3-4 miles down the road, and he doesn't live there year round, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So when you look at an area like that, do I expect an ambulance within 10 minutes, having a paramedic ambulance or even a CAT scan ambulance or, whatever,
Mhm.
advanced life support come to my house within 10 minutes? No, I'm choosing to live in the middle of nowhere. So you need to be able to recognize you're not going to get the same level of service.
Mhm.
Funny thing. So, I live in Hatfield, Pennsylvania, and, I'm starting to feel a little peckish. Kind of want a pizza. I go
Mhm.
right on my phone, DoorDash, boom. Pizza's here in 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Up there, there's
Yeah.
no pizza delivery.
Yeah.
That's a service I choose to not have
Mhm.
because it's not available there.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we have to kind of look at the same thing. You can't be a paramedic service in the middle of Wyoming
Yeah.
where you're covering 400 square miles with a population density of 3,000.
Yeah. 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 That's the comparison I can't stand when people's like, well, it's a rural medics. I get it, but I'm talking about the medics
Closest
that are in the
hospital
city.
to my hunting cabin is Geisinger, and that's 50 minutes away.
Mhm.
Same thing, same exact thing. But what I am saying is at least have a BLS service career
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
able to respond to, and have the ability to upscale when needed.
Yeah. I agreed. Agreed. I totally agree with that. All right, getting a little bit on time here. I want to get on the center of the wall. So you're just coming back, Scott. I'm sorry, you're coming. You're just coming back. We'll make a new schedule because the sitting on the wall. I want to talk about that more in depth, and I think EMS pay. Let us chew on that because it's a tough subject, and we can even go further on it because now we talk about the EMS pay on the outside. Let's talk about the inside. They don't still like they're getting paid enough, and I agree with that. I totally
I
agree with that.
100% agree. If I told you how much I make at my part-time paramedic job, you'd be like, "What?
Yep.
Why are you doing that?"
Yep. Yep.
I like it.
Yep. Yep. And there's a whole thing. I like when you said that the Chiefs have to. How did you say it? It was cultivating a life, but you said you had two. But what was the first one? You said it, and I.
Yep. So the first one, Chiefs, absolute, and this doesn't cost the service a ton of money, right? You need to make sure that you have a home-work balance for your employees because if you have staff
Mhm.
that are working 80 hours a week, which I
Mhm.
did that for the bulk of my career,
Yeah.
those are the people that burn out.
Yep.
I am a rarity, right?
Yeah.
I am
Mhm.
not the norm.
Mhm.
So you need to make sure your staff have, the ability to relax, that they don't get burned out.
Mhm.
And the other thing that doesn't cost you a ton of money, there has to be a career ladder. Can you continue to take Meemaw to the ER just over and over and over and over again
And
at the same level?
that's an easy fix. I had talked to another chief in the area. This concluded what you first said of the home well balanced life for the staff. And and to side note that is always my first and foremost. One of the podcasts I listened to, Jocko Willink, the only reason why he became a leader is because he wanted to take care of his men. That's it. That's it. Why I want to become a leader someday is to care of my brothers and sisters. That's it. And through that, it's an easy fix to get the chain up. You can have lieutenants, you can have captains, you can have chiefs, assistant chiefs, and not only that, you can get two, maybe three SUVs. So I talked to another chief about this, that culture of hey, I want my paramedicine, I want to get to that SUV. So I don't have to worry about getting my back and working 80 hours and I could be like a desk job. That's easy, man. That's easy. And that is something for paramedics to shoot for. And that's an easy fix. But we make it so hard that the medics that are there now who are, I don't make fun of age, but that are just getting a little older. They cannot get in that
You
truck.
know, it's funny. So I worked on one Saturday, right? Took a 65-year-old young lady to the emergency room with chest pains. And I'll tell you, we both had the same hair color.
So, and that with that, if you had just come an SUV, and I have a beautiful 12 lead ready for you, I have everything for you. You can literally, in the state of Pennsylvania's protocols, you can either like call the doc, because I can transmit myself and
Yep.
my skills. I can transmit that 12 lead to that doctor, and you both can talk and be like, all right, she's all right. There's negative 12 lead. Doc, I'm sending it to you. We're good to go. Like, we make ourselves in PA and I think this is across the country so difficult that we don't need to be difficult. We can make
Right.
this job better for the paramedics, for the EMT, because even an EMT BA or A, it'd be fun just to have another EMT and you're going back and forth of just doing calls and making you stronger. And then you're looking at that paramedic and like, man, you know what? That's why I want to do it. I want to become a paramedic and get on that SUV.
Well, once again, look, the trajectory of nursing. They've already done that. Or even, you want to compare us to physicians. Okay. Why did physicians stop carrying that little black bag and going to people's houses? Because they can't. There's too many people and not enough physicians.
Yep.
Well, guess what? And some people will argue there's not a paramedic shortage. There's a shortage of people who will work for what people are paying. 50-50, right?
Yep.
Men's and men's.
Yep.
I agree with both. But I do think that there is a shortage of paramedics.
I do
Do we
too.
need, the county you and I work in, right? Almost every truck is a ALS truck. I kind of think that's a billing thing, right? But who am I to say that? I'm happy I have a job. That's good.
Yep.
Right?
I know that I'm going to get, listen, I got hated when I moved up here because I moved up here in a Florida based Brevard County Fire Rescue. They were the real deal to me because I wanted to be Johnny and Roy. I wanted to be a fire medic. I wanted to do both and retire on a beach because you can do that. You can do that in Brevard. You can do that in a county-based system. So when I came up here and I said, hey, we should be a county-based system, there was a pitchfork. I was like Frankenstein going up the windmill. I thought I was gonna get right. I don't believe it would work here, but I do believe in the fact that the BLS units can be beefed up where the ALS unit could be an SUV.
See, I think it would work here and we're talking about, for your listeners, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, right? But the hard part is you now need to convince all of these chiefs to give up their fiefdom. It's not going to happen. It's not going to, regardless of, everyone just pictured somebody in their head, right? Okay, whoever you're picturing is who you're picturing. And it is what it is. But every county across Pennsylvania, the exact same way. Because guess what? I've been chief of ABC Ambulance for the last 12 years. And I've made significant change. I made it better. I made it worse, whatever. Yeah, I'm not giving that up because I'm the chief. Great. Something you said earlier, taking care of your staff. Richard Branson, right? Version, airlines, records. His famous quote is, take care of your staff. They'll take care of your customers. I don't like to use customers when we're talking about healthcare.
I use clientele, but yeah.
To me,
and even then, right.
But guess what? If that chief and those chief officers take care of their staff, squeeze every penny you can for the staff, have a career ladder, education requirements, because guess what? Everyone has the same ambulance, the same monitor, the same equipment. Everyone gives you uniforms, blah, blah, blah. But one place is paying $30 an hour and up the street, they're paying 42.
Money talks.
Money talks.
And I think that's a problem with everywhere, especially here. But you put that initiative to relieve those medics and put them in SUVs. Because I think that's where we're at right now. I think that's where the future is. I think that's where we need to be and
Plus,
get them off the
county system benefits are easier to do when there's 10,000 employees instead of 50, right? It's easier to buy equipment, ambulances, monitors, because, hey, Zoll rep, I want to buy one monitor. Well, it's $38,000. Okay, I want to buy 15 Zoll monitors. Well, all of a sudden, the price changes, right?
Yep.
And you can now deploy, well, we need the soccer game, right? The big soccer stuff is
FIFA,
happening here,
FIFA, baby.
right? Okay, well, we're going to shift our resources that way.
Mm-hmm.
You can
Yeah.
do that in the county system
Yep.
versus, hey, chief, can you? I can't even.
But the thing is with the county, and we pick on the chiefs, and not even them, man. It's the
I think the county has a
townships.
little bit of responsibility here as well.
Yeah, I think it's the townships. I've learned that in the government ways. I think it's the boards. You know who you are. Let's
Remember,
call a spade for a
until
spade
the
here.
state says EMS is an essential service and towns over X number of people
Mhm.
must have an EMS service.
Yep. I honestly believe Pennsylvania in certain areas, and that would include Pittsburgh or here in Montgomery County. I think we are aggressive. We're really aggressive with EMS. There's so much so they beat our ass. Like they're so aggressive, like they beat our asses, and
I
we can
kind of
feel
feel
it.
we're at a tipping point, right?
Mhm.
We're super aggressive with what we do, and our medical directors are the ones that allow us to be aggressive with the care that we provide, right?
Yeah, yeah.
From the state all the way down to the county to each individual squad's medical director, right? I
Mhm.
operate under their license.
Mhm.
They say I can do X, Y, and Z, and I do.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
But I kind of think that we're at the point now where, sure, there's some things like, ultrasound, blood, that we can add to that. But when do we say you need to have a degree
Yeah.
because we're doing all this stuff?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
once you say, well, the minimum now is going to be an associate's, and I'm never going to say, oh, we're going to turn that on overnight. And if you don't have a degree in a year, Chris, you're gone, right? That's not what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
And you obviously we can't just give you a degree, grandfather you in, but Chris, start taking some college courses, right? So once I get the degree and you're saying, well, paramedics need to have at least an associate's degree, well, now you're going to have to pay us.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of how that works.
Mhm.
You gotta have the degree requirement to make the more money. If you have a liberal arts bachelor's degree, you're making nothing. You're working at Target, right?
Mhm.
I get
Yeah.
it. That's not
Right.
what I'm talking about.
Right.
What I'm talking about medicine here.
Yeah.
And we'll go back to the healthcare provider that doesn't have a degree.
And maybe that's what the townships and boards see. That's what like their envision the government sees is like, oh well, they're part of public safety, they're just sleeping on the job, blah blah blah. But they don't realize the mental health, the gam at 3 a.m., the PTSD, the anxiety disorder, the hypervigilance, the cortisol, the adrenaline, the dopamine hits, the
Oh, they
all
see it.
this stuff.
They see it because they see it in their police and their fire departments. But remember, EMS is not a mandatory service. And
Like you said at the beginning. Yep.
where I work part time as a paramedic, they're a private organization. They have the name of the township we're in,
Mhm.
right? But they're not township owned.
Right. Right.
Does the chief have to go to them because that township does give the service, money, right?
Yep.
Tax money.
Yep.
So do they have to present, well, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing? Absolutely. And you should be doing that anyway, because that's public relations, right? But at any point, the township could be like, you know what? We're going to give our tax dollar. We're going to bring in, AMR. AMR has said they'll, and some places that's a dirty word, right?
Mhm.
So AMR said they'll come in here, they'll staff where we're staffing two paramedics, two ALS ambulances a day, 24
Mhm.
hours a day, right?
Yep.
They'll staff 4 and cover the entire township. And they have paramedics who will sit in the ambulance and they'll sit in the parking lot at Wawa.
Poof. There you go.
There you go. And they'll do it for free. They'll no tax dollars
Yep.
because they're just going to aggressively bill
Yep.
every single person.
Yep.
Now, would I go work for an organization like that? Probably not, because I don't want to sit in the ambulance in the Wawa parking lot when it's 105 degrees outside.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So will Scott do that? No.
No.
No. Now, if they're offering me $100 an hour, I'd pause for a minute. I'd still say no. I'd still say no.
Say no. Yep.
Well, I'm definitely going to pause at $100 an hour.
Yep.
No one's going to offer me $100 an hour.
No. But even with that, you got to weigh in the 6-7. Well, I'll be in a truck, and that's going to be 12, maybe 24 hours. No. It's not worth it.
And I'm at that point in my career where
I get it.
not sitting in a truck for.
I'm not sitting. I'm at that point in my career. I'm not going to sit in a truck. I worked my dues to get where I'm at.
14 years of working nights, baby. Working 80 hours a week.
I'm gonna end it there. I don't want to dilute what we're talking, and I want this episode to be about that. So we're gonna have you back on because we gotta talk about Bond, and we gotta talk about cons and stuff and geek stuff. But we got good stuff here that I don't want to dilute that. I don't want the message.
One, we'll do a contest. I have a bobblehead or not a bobblehead, a
Funko Pop?
Pop. Yeah,
Funko Pop?
Funko Pop of the big Asian guy through his hat. Top knot, top.
Yeah, Goldfinger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a Funko Pop, brand new in the box, and a pair of shears to whoever you pick.
Done deal. That's next episode. We'll schedule something within this week, and because I gotta look through my schedule. No, I'm just saying. Okay. Hey, Scott, where can they find Distant CME? Where can they find you, Distant CME, and where can they get this great education? Because this is pretty good.
www.distancecme.com. Super easy. And I always like to say the best customer service in the industry because, hey, you know what? You're a paramedic, EMT, EMR, AEMT in insert name of state here, and you're unsure of what you need. Send us an email, give us a call. On our website, it clearly lists, hey, you pick your state, Missouri. Click it, and it tells you paramedics need this. This is the program that we recommend. AEMTs need this. This is the program that we recommend. Or give us a call, send us an email. A lot of companies, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Yes, we have business hours, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what, my co-owners and myself, I happen to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning and an email pops in with, hey, I have a question about X, Y, and Z. I answer it.
That's the best customer service. That's the best customer service ever.
Well,
awesome.
and I get it. It's a little confusing. I have National Registry, but I'm in Iowa, but I'm moving to Texas. What do I need? We can help.
Yep.
Or at least get you to the state agency that can give you a definitive answer if you don't know.
And you've helped me multiple times with my education and what I need. And we talked about recently about paramedic school. So guys, go look up Distant CME after this episode. Whatever you got to do. It's great education. And I believe in the customer service. It's great. Follow me. Instagram, Facebook, all socials. TikTok. I like TikTok. TikTok really good. We have a website at Riverside, Geek EMT Podcast. You can find all of us. We're on Apple. Thank God. Thank you, Riverside. And yeah, guys, Scott, pleasure. Awesome. Guys, always EMS, always geek.